It's 2 days after President Trump walked out of the G7 summit in Calgary, flying back to Washington in the dead of night to deal with the Israel-Iran crisis. But what happened before he left has the global elite in full panic mode. Most people think this is just about Iran and Israel, but what you're witnessing is something far bigger. Trump is systematically dismantling the post-war British imperial system, and he's doing it while delivering the largest blue-collar wage increases in 60 years. The empire's puppets can see their game is up. I'm Susan Kokinda, and I've been fighting this fight since 1971, when I joined Lyndon LaRouche's organization the day Nixon ended the Bretton Woods system. I've seen every attempt to break free from British imperial control, and I can tell you, what Trump is doing right now is unprecedented. So today, I'll break down what really happened at the G7 meeting, how Trump is navigating the Iran-Israeli crisis in ways most people don't understand, and how the British are panicking because Trump's economic and strategic revolution is working, and it can end the post-war globalist order if you understand it and support it. Now, you saw the headlines. Trump left the G7 summit in Calgary early, flying back to Washington to deal with the Israel-Iran crisis. But the real story is what Trump said before he left, right to the faces of the globalist elite. Standing next to Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, the very icon of post-war globalist economic policy, Trump called out the G7 for throwing Russia out of that institution in 2014. He said, the G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in it. I would say that that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. Let that sink in. Trump, in front of the whole world, told the architects of the post-war order that their entire system is the problem. And he's right. The G7 represents everything Trump is dismantling. When Trump says you threw Russia out, and that was a mistake, he's not just talking about Ukraine. He's saying your system is the problem. Your system creates war. Because the old world order needs enemies to survive. Trump wants partners. One of those partners is Russia. Trump has had 2 recent discussions with Vladimir Putin about the potential of Russia helping mediate the Israel-Iran crisis. One discussion was right before Israel preemptively attacked Iran, and the other one was on Saturday, after Israel had launched the attacks. Just today, TASS reported again that Russia is ready to mediate. Also remember that Russia continues to pinpoint the role of the British in aiding not only Ukraine in their drone attacks on Russia, but in assisting Israel in the Iran operation. Now, Bill O'Reilly said something very revealing in a News Nation interview on Monday. O'Reilly said the following: earlier today, I texted with President Trump. He doesn't want to use American air power at this point because that would cause problems with China and Putin. As most of you know, O'Reilly is not a fan of Xi Jinping or Putin. Earlier in the interview, he agreed with the hyperventilating host that the world would be better off without them. But what he said about Trump is what's key. In what world does the President of the United States care about causing problems with China and Putin? Not in Mark Carney's world, not in the world of the recent British Defense Strategy Report, which treats Russia and China as permanent enemies, not in the world of Lindsey Graham or Mike Pompeo. Donald Trump is committed to a new world of sovereign nations, not a world in which nations are pieces on the geopolitical chessboard to be moved or sacrificed by the global overlords. Look, there's a lot of political turbulence. There's warnings that Trump is selling out to the neocons or the Zionists. And on the other hand, you have the hardcore war hawks who want to excommunicate Trump supporters who don't want to go to war with Iran. They're all missing this. Trump is trying to untangle decades of imperial policy, and he's doing it out in the open. Trump is up against political leaders and movements at home and abroad who've been created by the British elites. Zionists, radical Islamic fundamentalists, neocons, not to mention all the crazies on the left side of the equation. These forces are loose in a world that Donald Trump has to deal with as he tries to take command of the situation while maintaining his commitment to defend the United States and reestablish it as a sovereign republic. And that's what terrifies the old world has-beens. But Donald Trump needs something else. He needs people here in the United States and around the world to cut through the ground-level fog of war and see clearly this larger picture and the deeper principles. That's what we do at Promethean Action, and I encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter and become part of a community of people who can think and act strategically. So let's talk about Iran. Social media is a hotbed of rumors and fear-mongering. Is Trump caving into the neocons and the Zionists? I don't think so. Will the U.S. enter into this conflict if Iran refuses to budge? Well, Donald Trump has been pretty clear on that. And maybe by the time you watch this, that immediate question will have been answered. But the more durable question is, do you understand the principles at stake? In a recent tweet from Vice President J.D. Vance, I think you find that answer. He said, POTUS has been amazingly consistent over 10 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And over the last few months, he encouraged his foreign policy team to reach a deal with the Iranians to accomplish this goal. The president has made clear that Iran cannot have uranium enrichment, and he said repeatedly that this would happen one of two ways, the easy way or the other way. Vance goes on to explain that Iran could have civilian nuclear power, but they've continued to produce enriched uranium far above civilian needs, in violation of their obligations. And then Vance stresses, and of course, people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. But I believe the president has earned some trust on the issue. And having seen this up close and personal, I can assure you that he is only interested in using the U.S. military to accomplish the American people's goals. Whatever he does, that is his focus. And that's the difference between Trump and the neocons. The neocons and their British imperial controllers want endless war and perpetual regime change. Look at Iran and Israel, both hotbeds of British intelligence operations stretching back throughout the post-war period. In her Monday brief, Barbara discussed how the British, with plenty of help from the CIA, overthrew the Mossadegh government in Iran in the 1950s, put the Shah in, and then overthrew him when it suited their purposes, which led to the installation of the Islamic regime. Trump is committed to ending that, but you have to recognize that he and his relatively small team are dealing with a culture of war and regime change, which is deeply embedded in the intelligence and military institutions. But they're also doing something even more fundamental. Trump is threatening to replace the post-war liberal economic order with the most dramatic return to the American system in generations. While Trump was dealing with the global crisis, back home his policies delivered something incredible. Blue-collar workers saw real wage growth of almost 2% in just his first 5 months, the largest increase for any administration in nearly 60 years. Treasury Secretary Bessent pointed out that the nearly 2% rise was unprecedented, and it was a result of the emphasis on manufacturing and commitment to remove illegal immigrants from the workforce. When ICE raided a meatpacking plant in Omaha, dozens of Americans showed up the next day to fill out job applications. That's how you restore the dignity of work. And the British Empire has spent centuries convincing Americans that prosperity requires imperial wars and cheap foreign labor. Trump is proving them wrong. But while Trump fights the global empire abroad, he does face sabotage at home. Right now, the same neocon Rhino Collective in the Senate that's opposed peaceful settlements in Ukraine and Iran is trying to gut Trump's economic revolution. Trump's one big, beautiful bill represents the starting point of his economic revolution. But Senate Republicans infected with what I call the twin disease of perpetual war and libertarian free trade ideology are trying to water down the provisions that will help Trump's growing working class base. They're cutting Medicaid support, undermining the no tax on tips provision, and reducing the manufacturing incentives that could create up to 6 million blue-collar jobs. If they succeed in gutting this bill, they'll sabotage Trump's promise to American workers and potentially hand the midterm elections to Democrats. Now, here's where even Trump's best supporters fall short. They'll talk about the deep state, the war machine, and the CIA, and they're not wrong. But when Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon don't connect Trump's outreach to Russia and China with his broader strategy to destroy British imperial control, they leave people spinning their wheels. When Trump talks about working with Russia and China, he's not betraying American interests. He's building the coalition necessary to finally break British imperial hegemony. Think about it. Russia has vast natural resources. China has manufacturing capacity. And America has the technological and capital markets. Together, they represent a powerful combination, which could also include India, that would represent an alternative to the London-centered financial system that's dominated the world since World War II. And that's why the British are willing to risk World War III to stop Trump. They know that if he succeeds in creating a new alignment of sovereign nations, their centuries-old game is over. So the only way through this crisis is to recognize the deeper nature of this fight. It's the American system versus the British system. It's about whether we'll have a world of sovereign nations cooperating for mutual benefit or a world of endless wars designed to prevent any nation from achieving true independence. So don't get lost in the day-to-day noise, the Twitter hysteria, or the media's apocalyptic analysis of every tactical move. What you're witnessing is the potential to destroy a 400-year-old imperial system and the birth of something new. When blue-collar workers get their biggest pay raise in 60 years, when Trump walks out on globalist institutions, when he reaches out to Russia and China to end imperial wars, these are not separate events. They're all part of the same strategy. Restore American sovereignty and help other nations do the same. That's where Promethean action comes in. We've been fighting this fight for over 50 years, and we understand both the enemy and the solution. While others get caught up in the tactical battles, we keep our eyes on the strategic prize, ending the British Empire once and for all. Hundreds of new subscribers have joined us recently because they recognize we offer something different: historical depth, economic understanding, and a strategic vision to navigate this transition. We just got halfway to our goal of reaching 1,000 paid members, and we need your help to give us the ability to do more videos and reach more people by achieving that goal. The old world is dying, the new world is being born. Let's make sure it's the world we want our children to inherit. So subscribe, share this video, and join us in making history. The future belongs to sovereign republics, not global empires, but only if we fight for it. This has been your Midweek Update. Thanks for watching.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at PrometheanAction.com.